I like to give myself options when I'm shooting interviews. Here's how I get 2 shots at the same time with one camera. When you're shooting, or more precisely editing video, especially for interviews and dialogue, options are your friend. If you need to make cuts to fix mistakes or get rid of unnecessary info or just to tighten things up, you're usually going to need something to cover up those edits. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a jump cut. I don't want to get too deep into film language here, but basically a jump cut is when the framing doesn't significantly change, but the timing of the action obviously does. Kind of like that. I say usually you want to disguise it because jump cuts have been used in one way or another as an effect since the beginning of film. But typically, in traditional editing, they're frowned upon unless you're doing it on purpose and for a reason. And okay, they're a lot more acceptable these days than they used to be, but I'm still not there yet. I still like to disguise my edits as much as possible. Come here. Editing should be invisible. So for this video, let's assume I don't want a jump cut. That means you're going to need options to cover up those edits. Option 1, B-roll, using some video that's relevant to whatever the subject's talking about to cover up those edits. If the subject is talking about how she likes to spend her free time coaching youth sports, having video of her in action would be great. B-roll works well if you have it and if it's not forced. Good B-roll is a whole nother video. But sometimes you don't have access to or time to get relevant video. So another option is using different camera angles and varying the frame size, which you can do by using more than one camera or using multiple takes with the same camera film style. But that gets complicated. But even as a solo or small crew shooter with limited resources, you can still give yourself some options. Here's where the 2 shots or more from one camera comes in. You probably already kind of figured it out. Most cameras shoot in 4K. But I rarely ever deliver anything in 4K, almost always in a smaller full HD. That's starting to change, but we'll talk about that in a second. So I edit in an HD timeline, but I shoot the interviews or whatever in 4K. 4K is much bigger than HD, so when I place it in the timeline, I can scale and have a wide range of framing options. So with a single camera shot, I can cut from a medium wide shot at around 50% scale, to a close-up at around 75% scale, to an extreme close-up at about 100% scale, all while using the full resolution of the 4K video. And if you have the ability to use multiple cameras, like with what would be my typical interview setup, the main interview camera with the subject looking into the lens or documentary style looking slightly off camera, plus another camera off to the side either on a slider or stationary. With that setup, I get 4 or more cameras worth of shots from just 2 cameras. A much easier edit. But okay, some people have reservations about doing this. Now that 4K is becoming more common for small productions and even YouTube delivery, some people want to edit in 4K. Some higher-end productions are going to expect delivery in 4K. So 8K comes to the rescue. More and more new cameras are being released that shoot 8K or even more. So this technique would still work the same way. You shoot in 8K, you edit in a 4K timeline, you still have the framing options to play with. So the idea basically is to shoot bigger than my edit timeline to give myself framing options. Unless there's some specific reason and I know the end product will benefit from being delivered in 4K, I'll still be editing in HD for a little while longer. Hope that helps and gives you some editing options. I'll put some links in the description for a little deeper dive into resolution differences if you're interested. See you in the next one. Take care, y'all.